Welcome, everyone, to the Thinkers Show. I'm your host, Jen. Our contestants today are Keith and Tati. Let's spin the wheel to see who will be the focus of today's show. It looks like we'll be focusing on Wilhelm Wundt today. Before we start with the trivia portion of this evening, why don't we mention a little bit of Wilhelm Wundt's biography? Wundt was born on August 16, 1832 in Germany. Wundt studied with both Müller and Helmholtz before becoming professor at Leipzig in 1875. Wundt started out studying physiology in order to understand the basic workings of humans. As Wundt studied the human sensory process, he found that there might be a psychological component and therefore branched into psychology for answers. Because of this idea of looking into the mind and thoughts instead of solely examining bodily actions, Wundt would identify as a structuralist. Alright, Keith, here's your first question. When studying the changing process of consciousness where actions are not attributed to a soul or abstract principle?
What is process theory?
Correct. Process theory is an important contribution made by Wundt because it provided another explanation to explain behavior in a more scientific way, along with stating that actions are due to consciousness and not the supernatural. Alright, Keith, you get another question. One of Wundt's contributions was studying the organization of the mind. With this, he coined the term blank, which is the idea that the mind is able to organize the content mental processes in higher level thinking.
What is validation?
Sorry, the word we were looking for is voluntarianism. Voluntarianism references the word volition because it has the same notion of a higher act or power of thought. Tati, you're up. The physical and the psyche are parallel processes which do not interact with each other and which cannot be reduced to each other.
What is psychophysical parallelism?
Correct. This notion acknowledged that inner experience occurs in the brain, but there are no physical causes for mental change. One can have a thought, but that does not mean their behavior is affected or that the individual would act on that thought solely because the thought occurred, and vice versa. Okay, Tati, you get another question. This research technique involves highly trained observers who would study and report the content of their own behaviors.
What is investigation?
That is incorrect. The word we are looking for is introspection. Wundt's process required the observer to be keenly aware and attentive of their thoughts and reactions to the stimulus, and involved multiple presentations of the stimulus. Of course, because this process relies on personal interpretation, it is highly subjective. Before we reveal our tiebreaker question, let's reflect why Wundt is an important figure to study. Wundt is called the father of experimental psychology because he systematically organized the idea that there should be methods and procedures in place when conducting examinations. An example of this is when Wundt first attempted to examine thoughts and feelings through controlled experiments. Wundt founded the first formal laboratory for research at the University of Leipzig in 1879. Now for the tiebreaker. Whoever raises their hand first gets a chance to answer the question. Ever since Wundt opened his first laboratory in Leipzig, he enabled others to gain insight into experimental psychology. Although he proposed many theories that set the foundation for many other psychologists to build on, many of them reacted negatively towards his ideas. So the question is, for someone who is widely regarded in the field of psychology, why is Wundt criticized so heavily by scholars and psychologists alike? Yes, Keith?
Oh, I know this. He was criticized for many things. One of them involving with Wundt's Volker's Psychology, where people struggled to understand the 10 volumes of the document because it was not translated, and as a result of this, some of Wundt's ideas were distorted or misinterpreted. Also, critics found that each time the introspection method was used, the results obtained from various laboratories all had different results. This shows that in some ways, introspection can be unreliable. And a third point.
I only needed 1 point. Any more than that is above my pay grade. But yes, correct. Congratulations, Keith. You are the winner of this episode of The Thinkers Show. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Jen, and I'll see you next time.
Wait, where's my prize?